Hi, everybody, and welcome to NAS200 Decolonization and Resiliency in Indigenous Communities. I am so excited to have you join on for this second 8-week session. My name is Christine Ami, and I will be your instructor for the next 8 weeks as we go ahead and conclude the fall 2021 semester. I wanted to take some time right now to really comb through our syllabus and some basic introductory concepts that I think that it will be key for you guys to learn and study and focus on as we proceed through this class. I wanted to give you a heads up. This is my favorite class. I love teaching this class. I know at the very beginning, it has a lot of heavy concepts that we have to work through, and we'll go through them when we review our syllabus. But in terms of class prep and having lesson plans built and just being openly accessible to the course content here, it's really one of my favorite classes to teach here at the college and even in its online format. So I wanted to thank you guys for joining me. And I hope that if you have any questions that you feel comfortable for reaching out and getting in contact with me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our course, how its format, and let's take a look at this guy. So I gave you guys already an orientation on how to access Blackboard, but right now we're going to go ahead and take a look at how do we access our syllabus. So once again, you're going to go to your second tab and take a look at the syllabus and course orientation. I'll put all of our orientations in this particular tab of Blackboard just so that you have easy access in case you want to go back. I'll also do one on discussion postings in case you want to learn more about the format and you really want a clear idea of how to earn full points on those discussion posts. So what we're going to take a look at right now is our syllabus, because this is really what's going to orient us to the course, the deliverables, and ultimately how do you do well. So let's go ahead. There are so many documents I have open. Okay, so when we take a look at our course syllabus, too many documents open. There you go. Okay. We are in section 12. My name is Christine Ami. You can find me if you put into your email search, if you just look Ami, there are two of us. One is Carlin, that's my husband. The other one is me. So if you need to get a hold of me, just make sure that you put in CM Ami, or also it'll send your email over to my husband, which I'll get it anyway. I hold a doctorate in Native American Studies over at the University of California, Davis. And this is one of the classes that I developed as part of my graduate program over at UC Davis. The course number is NAS200. Section 12. It's an online course, including online office hours. And I really want to stress this. This Zoom link will stay live, as I explained in our Blackboard orientation, Monday through Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time. Just always know that I'm always going off of Navajo Nation reservation time. So you can go literally click on the Zoom during the time period and you will have access to me. So I did put my extension here, but I am not in the office right now, so I won't get your message. So my best suggestion is to either email me or stop by office hours. Here's my email. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of our actual course. So this course is an interdisciplinary analysis of 3 major topics in Native American studies. First one is going to take a look at colonization. We can't look at decolonization if we don't understand the tenets of colonization. So we're going to really focus on that during the first part of the class, actually throughout the entire class. Then we're going to focus in on decolonization. We also get into concepts of internal colonization, which is really tricky because it's when we start taking a look at how we ourselves colonize ourselves. So it's no longer an outside entity, it's ourselves because of our mindset and the trauma and everything that everybody's gone through in terms of experiences are now perpetuating those colonizing tendencies. So we'll get a chance to take a look at that as well. And then we're also going to take a look at concepts of Indigenous self-determination. When we take a look at those areas and that big term, we're really foregoing the concept or building off of the concept of sovereignty in a more approachable manner. Sovereignty is such a heavy term filled with a lot of legal stipulations that we get a chance to go over when we start taking a look at our politics classes in our NAS minor. But For right now, something that's really approachable is taking a look at self accountability, right? How do we self determine our own futures? And before we can start working with the community, before we can start working with on a nation government, we have to focus in on ourselves. So that concept of indigenous self determination, which is very akin to the philosophy that we hear at the College of Tahoe, really help to bring them together. So those are the concepts that we really go over this class. Not only do we aim to explore myths and realities of decolonization, you'll see decolonization everywhere. Everybody uses it. Right now, I just got back from an articulation task meeting, and one of the big jargon words right now that's going on over, for example, over at NAU in their anthropology department is that they're decolonizing, right, their anthropology department and the school as a whole. So they want to include all of this indigenous studies and a lot of stuff that they think they're doing is revolutionary, and when in fact it really isn't. And it's very difficult, especially when you're taking a very fixed Western discipline such as anthropology, and now you're trying to decolonize it. So we see it a lot in academic jargon. We see it a lot in activist propaganda. We're going to really focus in on this class on breaking down those concepts so that they're applicable and we're utilizing it in a correct context. We're also going to start taking a look at, well, how do we start, right? This class isn't just about talk. It isn't about theory. It's about actual application. So we're going to really focus in on ourselves and take a look at how we can reassess. How can we reprioritize and reconcile? I like a lot of rewords. You'll start to hear that a lot with psychological impacts of colonial trauma. How do we start to decompact everything that's been shoved into our minds, and we can recompartmentalize those areas as well. So here are our course goals. Once again, these course goals are going to line up with our course structure. Our class is divided up into 4 sections. So each one of these sections is clearly labeled in our course calendar, and these are the particular um, goals and objectives that we have for each one of those sections. So reading requires, as I indicated in our FAQ section of this class, you do not need to buy any books. Although if you do, this is a good place to start. This particular area, this is an online journal. You can access that. You'll have to log in, so you'll have to get some sort of password set up, but it's free and it's got all sorts of resources for you. A lot of our readings come from this journal. I've already provided those links and PDF documents for you in the actual Blackboard, so you don't have to. But if you want to peruse and if you want to look for more articles, or if you're looking for stuff for research papers, this is an excellent journal to have access to. So go ahead and do that. And then a lot of our readings come from these areas for Indigenous eyes only, for Indigenous minds only. They're great introductory texts, and they have a lot of self-reflective journaling components to it. Once again, you don't have to buy them. I have included the articles that we are utilizing in Blackboard for you. But if you're looking for the whole kit and caboodle, these are going to be the texts that you want to start with. And then this Urban Morris is typically for our 16-week class. We get a chance to analyze it. But if you guys are looking for some supplemental reading in addition to what's going on, I suggest that you get this particular version of the Navajo creation story, because it doesn't just keep our creation story static in the past. It does a wonderful job taking a look at how it's applicable today, how the creation story continues today, and we are actually protagonists and participants in those journeys today. So those in terms of our readings, those are really good places to start. If we're going to go through our course policies, one of the big things that I'm hugely attuned with is going to be our participation. Make sure that you guys are participating. And how do you participate in an online class? Do the discussion posts, submit your answers. post responses to discussion posts. Stay on top of if somebody asks you a question, right, in your discussion post, go back to your old discussion posts and start to dialogue. Those really start to demonstrate, right, those areas of participation. We have areas of respect. This class is based off of mutual respect. We talk about some really heavy topics, and sometimes people aren't going to agree with me, and sometimes you aren't going to agree with each other. How do you respectfully, right, present your opinion that may be contrary or debating with somebody else's in the class, including my own? I have very strong opinions, as for some of you guys who've taken classes with me in the past, or as you will get to know throughout my lectures. I have very strong opinions on concepts, for example, language revitalization, or even tribal affiliation versus being an active tribal member. And so those are the kinds of things that I take into really vocal perspectives. And you don't have to agree, but you do have to utilize the skills that are being presented in this class to help deconstruct arguments and present your own. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind netiquette, right? This is proper conduct for online forms of communication. Make sure that it reinforces our respect policy, right? Our mutual respect policy. Things like make sure that you are not writing in all caps, right? Yeah, it gives that tone of yelling at people. Make sure that you're not plagiarizing. Make sure that you're not being directly disrespectful or indirectly disrespectful to your classmates or myself. You want to keep those in mind. And if you're interested in more, just tips on etiquette, I have an FAQ section that you can go ahead and check on our Blackboard site. Due dates. Due dates typically for this class are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's an 8-week class, so it is an intensive class. It is an 8-week class. The good thing is that there are no exams. Just make sure that you stay on top of the discussion post and that you really follow the discussion post protocol in order to earn all possible points for your discussion posts. So make sure that you check out that area. I'll also be posting an orientation on our discussion posts in just a few moments after I get done recording this guy. Office hours, once again, meet up with me. Just stop by, say hi, introduce yourself, and let me know how things are going. Just even if you say that you're go ahead and you're going to just stopping in just to check in, that's absolutely fine. My plan for interaction, this is what I'm hoping to provide for you guys, is if you guys can give me a 48-hour period to respond back through emails, Sunday through Thursday. I try to check out on Thursday at 4 o'clock, meaning after 4 o'clock. My hope is not to get onto the internet, but that doesn't always happen. But if it's an emergency, obviously, you can go ahead and contact me through email. And then give me 48 hours. And if I don't respond to your emails, just shoot me another email. It may have gotten lost in my other emails. It may have gotten lost in my different files. We're utilizing this new 365 system from Microsoft. So a lot of times some of my emails get put into trash or get stored automatically into other folders. So just go ahead and send me another follow-up email. And then obviously you can stop into my office hours as well. I do have a 1-week window for grading. So it gets me, I try to stay on top of it a little bit quicker than that, but please give me at least a week. And then if not, feel free to start sending emails so that I can provide you feedback. But my hope is to get all feedback back as soon as possible. Students with disabilities, if you feel that you need additional support, you make sure that you contact our student services. They can help set you up with an education plan that will help you out with accommodations. So make sure that you get in contact with those individuals. Key person to go to for that is going to be Lavine Black Mountain. She's fantastic. She works with students and instructors very closely. So make sure that you stay in contact with her if you do need some sort of accommodation. Academic integrity. Don't cheat in any shape or form. I want to hear your voice. I don't want to hear plagiarized versions from online resources. I don't want to hear somebody else's posting from the past. I don't want you to copy and paste from one of your classmates in your discussion posts. I want to hear you. So just keep that in mind. If I do find any form of plagiarism, that includes, right, learning how to cite properly. You guys are now in a 200 level class. So make sure that you guys are are starting to master APA format. That's what the School of Business and Social Sciences really works with. So keep that in mind. Learner privacy. You guys are protected under FERPA. So I am not able to give any information about you away to anybody but you. So if anybody contacts me in terms of parents or spouses or children, I am unable to provide any of that information. So keep that in mind. Open web, social media privacy. You guys will have the opportunity to utilize third-party software such as blogs or YouTube at times. While these are required for the classes and a lot of my classes, make sure that if you're not comfortable with it, right, that you don't include any personal information on a public website when you don't want to. You may be eligible to use pseudonyms or nicknames. That's absolutely fine. Just make sure that I know who you are, and just keep that into consideration. Now, our classroom format, as I explained before, is divided up into 4 sections. Section 1 is going to take a look at the foundations and concepts of historical trauma. Section 2 is really going to focus in on the practice of decolonization. So what is decolonization? What is resiliency? Section 3 is going to take a look at examples of identifying, right, those actual terms and theories and actually in practice, right? We're going to look at that. And the 4th one is going to be taking a look at how do we distinguish between colonization, internal colonization, and decolonization. Now, all of these sections have their own objectives outlined in the syllabus, and make sure that you take a look at our sections and lessons and dates, where when you look at the schedule, it's very clearly outlined, so you'll be able to follow along. So the key question is, how do I do well? All of this blah, 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 blah about course policies. I am fully hopeful that you guys aren't going to be plagiarizing and you'll be submitting your assignments on time. How do you do well in the class? Well, there's actually 3 forms of submissions that you'll be taking a look at. 40% of your grade will be dependent upon your responses to discussion posts. Each discussion post is worth 15 points, and there are opportunities for extra credit. So make sure that you read very clearly on these areas and how to get extra credit. The key thing is that it says 10, it's supposed to be 15. Make sure that when you respond that you are meeting the word count, and the word count isn't there to necessarily, right, have you focus on the word count, but really focusing on content, right? If you can meet that 150 words with content and not with fluff, right? I talk a lot about fluff in our FAQ section, meaning that you're just putting out airs, you're not including resources from the class, you're just giving personal experiences, and you're not tying it into the readings or the classwork. You're just giving me declarations without any support, pure opinions without anything to back it up, right? That's fluff. You want to make sure that you stay away from that and you really focus in on putting something that's going to be helpful to learning. Once again, the majority of this class is based off of that discussion post, so keep that in mind. There are going to be 5 handbook activities, and I'll be doing an orientation video on that just so that you understand where to locate them, how to do them, and how to upload them. But those are fun activities. I think that they're fun activities because they give you a chance to really self-reflect and then give honest answers back. Our intro and conclusion activities, one of them is due at the very beginning of the class and the other one is due at the very end. Those are worth 10% or 20% of your final grade, so make sure that you do them. The first one is actually a syllabus learner agreement that you will sign off on. The only way you can only participate in this class is if you score 100% on that. And that's really just acknowledging that you read the syllabus, that you understand the course policies, that you understand the outline of the class, and they're just yes or no responses. So that's what you need to go through. If you hit a no on any of those responses, I will get in contact with you so that we can go over and schedule a meeting to find out exactly what type of issues you may be confronting so that we can troubleshoot them so that you can score 100% on that particular agreement. So here's our course calendar. As I said, it's divided up into sections. You'll see those sections as well as the course objectives outlined. as well as dates and what's due. So the first due date, the first video that you'll take a look at is this video, really taking a look at on the introduction for this particular section. And then these are our activities and readings that you'll have assigned. Sometimes there'll be YouTube videos, sometimes there'll be lessons, video lessons. You'll see the difference and you'll see the upload. One will be my face, and then the other one will be links or internal videos that you can watch directly on our Blackboard site. Okay, so our first section is really going to take a look at, right, colonization and historical trauma. We can't truly understand what decolonization is intending to do without understanding what colonization is and historical trauma, how that builds into it. There is, when we take a look at historical trauma, one of the things that we will be focusing on, especially in this recap lesson, is going to focus in on the immediate impacts, immediate trauma, and then exactly what is historical trauma that gets passed through generations. And along the lines, we're going to see how colonization intersects with each one of these areas. Now, this particular reading is really important. So really take some time with lesson 3 in reading historical trauma, because you are going to be going through the 5 impact areas of colonization. So make sure that you spend some extra time really outlining those 5 impacts, taking a look at the physical impact, the economic impacts, looking at social, cultural, and then psychological, because that is really, when we take a look at that and we start to break that down, that's how we start to backtrack. Decolonization is about backtracking on those impact areas until you get to, right, back to the physical decolonization, which is going to be the land back movements. And if this is a lot, don't worry about it. We will comb through it piece by piece throughout this particular class. But that's really important for this particular class to understand where and how analysis is going to take place. Section 2 is pretty much taking a look at, all right, what is decolonization? And we look at fundamental texts. For example, L.T. Smith is like the go-to guru of decolonization. She's a Maori scholar, and it's not that she's the first person to have written about this. She is just the first person to be academically as a whole accepted, right? And so you'll see a lot of text really reference her when we start getting into what is decolonization. Decolonization is not a metaphor. I've gotten into so many arguments with scholars, especially overseas and in Europe, where they want to believe decolonization as a pure theory. And in Native American studies, decolonization is not a theory. It's not purely a theory anyway. It's not a metaphor. It is actual action. It's actual change. It's kind of like when you say, I'm sorry, and sorry doesn't mean anything unless you have any type of actual action that's associated with it to demonstrate that change. And so when we take a look at decolonization, that's what we're looking at, is where are these actions? Where is the theory actually taking place through people changing and revolutionizing and anything from revitalization to reclaiming. So those are the things that we take a look at. Section 3 is exciting because we get to actually look at examples of colonization and decolonization taking place all at the same time. We start taking a look at mascots, and then we start moving into rights, right? We have this rights concept. So we really look at macaw whale hunting because we're looking at hunting rights. But we take a look at Native American studies and we look it through a decolonizing lens, then we're not looking at rights, we're looking at obligations and responsibilities. So it's a big difference from this man-made law versus, right, natural and fundamental law. And so that comes into play when we start looking at decolonization as well. I love lesson 16, which is all about decolonizing indigenous diets. We really focus in on what are we eating, right? And how does that represent a larger picture? And so that's a fun class to take a look at. In lesson 17, we start taking a look at blood quantum and how is tribal enrollment established in various sectors both in federal tribes and non-federally recognized tribes. How do we establish blood quantum? And then we start taking a look at our own right tribe and figuring out, all right, so what is enrollment, and is it, does it need adjustment, right? We'll look at, for example, disenrollment. I have a nice example of disenrollment that takes place that we'll go into. And then, I mean, if you look at everything that's going on right now with COVID and the massive enrollments that took place, especially within the Navajo Nation, right? What's the difference between right having your census number and being an active tribal member? Is there a distinction, and should it matter in terms of tribal enrollments? Then we move into language, and we're moving away from language loss into right language survival. How do we really promote that transition? That's also a really fun section to take a look at. The last section, we're going to focus in on the distinction between colonization, internal colonization, and decolonization. And in order to do that, we'll look at museum holdings of art. We're going to focus in on art, basically, is what I'm saying. Look at museum holdings at art. And then we're going to look at an example of internal colonization where, where we play Indian. In this case scenario, I ran into a situation where I had an individual who was playing a Navajo weaver on a loom that wasn't theirs. And so those are the kinds of things that we take into consideration when we are looking at really self-critical understandings of what decolonization is. So that's what I have for you guys in terms of our syllabus. I'm really excited about this class. Like I said, I get to accompany you guys on all sorts of different types of personal journeys. Please, please, please be as honest as possible, because that helps you and it helps me. And even if you run into issues where you don't agree with people, feel free to explain why, and don't feel that you're going to get somebody jumping down your throat. It's really an opportunity for us to engage in dialogue and move away from debate, so that both of us can grow, or all of us can grow in understanding other people's perspectives, even though we may maintain our own thresholds for those particular topics at hand. So I hope that this helped to clarify a lot of the class and what we're going to be going through. And I look forward to seeing you guys in your discussion blog introductions in lesson 2. Have a great day. Bye.